Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode number 14. This one I'm covering the 14th season of Case Closed, which is roughly 39 episodes long. By the way, the following season is also 39 episodes long. Now, this season is, like I said, roughly 39 episodes. Now, I forgot to mention this in my last review. Now, season 13 covered chapters 401 to 406, 441 to 449, and 453 to 474. This season, season 14, covers chapters 410 to 412, 450 to 452, and 475 to 504. Yep. By the way, in case you wonder, what's the last season that does the whole thing of skipping chapters to go like here or there? Last one was actually season 18, though they do bring it back for season 22, 23. But yeah, they do pretty much progress forward. Now, this season, by being 30 episodes long, there's not that many filler episodes this season. No, there is like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. That's 5, that's 8, 10, 12, 15, 16, 17, roughly 18. Yes, the season roughly is 18 episodes. Now, the first 2 episodes are in fact a filler. Yes, it's a 2-part filler. Which I'm thinking, like, why in the world would they start the season? Now, every season, the whole series has always started off generally with a canon episode. This is the first season I've seen where it starts off with filler and it ends with filler. Yes, that is simply what this season is. Yeah, it's particularly for odd season. First one's called, well, it deals with Richard getting drunk in Saitama. Yep. This 2-parter involves, well, Richard Moore and the gang solving a murder with the guy who's sort of like their marketing rep, and he apparently really wants to mass market this particular sake, but they actually didn't want to do it because, well, it'll ruin the taste of it. Like, everybody was against it. The owners were against it. The people who work for them were against it. But the guy really wanted to push it so badly. And of course, was also this TV crew who was also invited to do a documentary thing. And even she agreed with the whole thing. With everybody else, it should not be mass marketed. It should still be handmade. Yep. Eventually, the guy is murdered, and it turns out the person who actually killed him was actually the owner's wife, who's actually his high school sweetheart. Well, at least his childhood sweetheart, because the show has a thing for having childhood couples. Yep. And it turns out this one was actually previously his nurse. So yeah, she knew how to kill him. Yep. It's an interesting little 2-parter, but yeah. And then we have Metropolitan Police Love Story 6. This one's particularly a very odd one, per se. Yeah, this one has pretty much nothing to there. Despite the fact being called Metropolitan Police Love Story, it has nothing to do with the budding romance of Takagi and Saito. It's mostly a character piece for the character Chaba. Oh, the one who's actually the only officer who's slightly overweight, and you get to know a lot about him. Like, he's a toy collector, and he's a fan of the original version of Mask Yaiba, which is the show that 3 of the Detective Boys frequently watch every week. Yeah, he's a big fan of it. He actually has the original series all on VHS tape. And while everybody was searching the apartment, the kids were actually watching. It was like, huh, that's not a bad idea to do. And it turns out the reason why they're there, because his roommate, the detective boys, actually witnessed him run away from a murder scene, And yeah, it was proven that, yep, he was definitely the person responsible for this. Kaba, of course, basically was upset the fact the guy used him simply as a tool just to get him off the hook. So he threw him out and the guy got arrested. Yep. And it's surprising, though, that Kaba actually lives in the apartment. Like, they find the guy, and of course, Kaba's the one who actually is the one who does. And apparently, he spends a lot of his days off just watching TV, like watching certain things that he wants to watch. And apparently, he's always late for work. Which I'm like, how is this guy not docked pay or at least fired for all his frequent tardiness? Maybe he's that good of a worker. That's my personal theory. Yeah, I'm sure his work pay's probably been docked several times because they say he's frequently late and in fact he oversleeps. That's simply what the. But this particular two-parter, despite the whole thing of Texas police being involved, this particular two-parter, like I said, pretty much just wraps up pretty easily. And then Takagi takes Saito out, okay, everyone, and then the detective boy's like, hey, can we go along? It's like, sure. And of course, I was like, well, why not? Just to celebrate solve the case. It's an interesting little two-parter, but the budding romance is really like on the side. It's not the main theme of this episode, unlike the last few times where they kind of where it definitely was. This one is more like a side piece. It's like a supporting story overall the main story. It's like this story really didn't really need the whole title of Metropolitan's love story. You could simply just have this as one of the regular episodes, but no, we have to call Metropolitan's Love Story 6. Next, of course, is the mysterious height of 20 centimeters. Yep. Yeah, this one's particularly a very odd one, where a guy is killed in a very unusual way, and apparently the guy was able to get away with it. He also been accused of particularly stabbing a particular person before, though he was able to get off the hook due to the fact that one, they actually found the right person, and two, he was too tall to actually kill the person. And how he killed this one was actually quite unusual. He basically loosened light bulbs on a chandelier, this light chandelier thing, with a ladder, and apparently he also suffered from a broken leg, and somehow used that to get him on a ladder, and then he stabbed him, and then he pretty much put the ladder back and tried to prove that he definitely wasn't the murderer. But yeah, he was the murderer, right? It was basically clear cut. This is one of the few times where the person who actually is suspected of actually killing the actual victim actually really did. Yep. One of the few times, basically. Doesn't happen very often in this series, but yeah. Next one is, of course, a kidnapping case. Yes, this is basically it's a filler episode, second one of the season. Yeah, it's all like a little boy getting kidnapped, and how to discover this particular kidnapping is quite bizarre. Apparently, one of the kidnappers just happened to have the ransom money after and the person dies in a motorcycle crash, and yeah. Yeah, and the whole thing of this was basically, turns out it was actually the guy's son-in-law who actually is behind all this. As for because he was the one who planned all this. As for if he was charged with the crime, I don't know if he was. It's particularly very odd the fact if he was or not. That's what I guess. He was behind everything. Yeah, it's particularly very unusual. Next up is a three-parter called Big Adventure in the Electric Mansion, which is quite an interesting one. Which also involves the return of the Kaito Kid. Yep. Yeah, believe it or not, the Kaito Kid shows up. Yeah, and he's actually posing as one of the treasure hunters. one we did not suspect. And this is the first time since his mid-air walk from the previous season he's actually been seen. And Detective Boys do know about, well, Conan's previous encounters with the Kaido Kid. And he keeps saying, one day I'll rip that monocle off your face. Really? Yeah, that's something that's been unusual about the Kaido Kid. His mask is a monocle. Seriously? You couldn't wear a diamond mask like Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. No, you have to wear a freaking monocle. That's one thing I don't like about the Kaido Kid, is the fact he's got I love his suit and his hat. They look fantastic on him. But the monocle. Really? That's your disguise? A freaking monocle. Is it that big you cover part of your face? Well, let me ask you this, Kaido Kid. Are you afraid of wearing a domino mask? Apparently you are, because domino masks are very good at hiding people's identity. Not a freaking monocle. And yet, this particular series has it where a monocle is a good disguise. Yep. But it's a very good 3-parter, and I do recommend it. It's basically one of the several times the Kaido Kid shows up in the series, but yeah. And then we have another filler episode. Yes, another filler episode. Spicy Bittersweet Soup. Yeah. I don't really remember this episode very much, so I'm just going to skip over it. The next comes the Weird Feeling Commission, which is a canon episode. Yeah, these 2-part actually leads into the 400th episode of the series, Ren's Suspicions. Well, Rachel suspects, anyways. Yeah, all about this email thing that's basically bookended this particular 2-part, which leads into the next one. Yeah, involved the fact that, well, this woman had basically hired Richard to find a lost cell phone. She eventually finds it, and it turns out that her brother-in-law actually was kept, at least her brother was kept in her other brother-in-law or brother's room, and he killed his fiance for some reason. Turns out the other brother killed him, and he was a fugitive for some time. Yeah, it's particularly a very odd little case, but it does lead into the interesting one. Yeah, so Conan basically sets it up so Rachel basically goes different whenever she calls Jimmy, calls a different cell phone, not his regular one. Yeah, but it's quite an interesting little episode. And then we have I believe this is a filler, right? No, it's not filler. Yeah, then we have the next few episodes being, well, the next 2 episodes being canon. Called The Red-Headed Jewel Robber. Yeah, this is a particularly very odd one. Yeah, Takagi on his day off is basically getting a brooch for Saito. This feels like more of something akin to Metropolitan Police love story than the previous one because, well, it does deal with the budding romance, and the person who actually is killed was a former employee of this other guy, which apparently he laid him off just so he can move from a big floor to a small floor. Yeah, apparently his company, it's revealed that his company is actually failing and he wanted to save money by reducing the production staff. As for what the company produced, I have no idea because they don't go into detail exactly what this company does. At least some of the other companies that show in this series, where the actual president of the company, who's actually the murderer, by the way, they actually explain what the company does. This company, they don't really explain what they do. It's like some kind of office work, maybe, but it's never really explained exactly what the heck he does. And how he pulls off his trick is quite unusual. Apparently, he killed him. He killed him by basically basically strangled him and throw him out a window and land on top of a moving truck. And then he pulled off a jewel heist robbery, and he decided to sort of swing across between 2 buildings like he's freaking Tarzan, and has sort of his crash pad, his mattress, which is actually wet. And Godfather figures this out really easily. And yeah, hey, get this, the brooch that the guy wanted to buy Saito. Yeah, it's found the guy's coat. Yeah, because he actually switches coats, and he wants Saito to look at it. And it turns out Saito's not really into the fancy jewelry. Nope. Apparently, it's something Yumi wanted for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, but a bit of a letdown, but it's a great little two-parter. Next up is the Mysterious Angel Mansion. Yeah, I love this particular one. It has a little bit of elements of Da Vinci Code with this one. Well, the whole thing about mansion and all his secrets. It's a great little two-parter. I kind of wish this one was canon. This I think is filler, but it's a great two-parter. Goes out all about Minotaur and a bunch of bulls and these like separate mansions. Yeah, and there's a maze underneath. It's a fantastic two-parter, and I do recommend if basically people want to get into Case Closed. Try out this episode. It's really damn good. And we have a man who called an ambulance. Yep, where a guy is found dead in the street, and the guy who calls for an ambulance is a comedian. Yep, a comedian that no one has ever heard of at all. Yeah, and it was suspected that he basically was one who killed the guy because well, it's the old-fashioned thing of suspecting who found the person may have actually committed the crime. Nope, it was not him. No, it was not him at all. It turns out it was actually, believe it or not, his roommate. Yep. And apparently, he did it because he thought because his manager wanted to change his image of being a cool guy instead of wanted smiling. Yeah, it's a particularly very odd little standalone episode, but it has nothing really to do with the series at all. Next comes a three-parter, Conan and Harley's Reasoning Magic. Yeah, this involves like a magic show. First time in a little while they've actually evolved like magicians in the show. They actually reference the last time they actually evolved with a magician. Excuse me, pull off a little trick involving a door or whatever. Yeah, and it's a great it's a great three-parter. Do I think it warrants a three-part episode? It actually did. It was very well paced and well done. And I kind of suspect maybe the woman who was actually the person who killed this particular person, but nope. It was, believe it or not, one of the male students. Yeah, particularly the one who, well, not the one who has a career, basically the one who, I believe it's, yeah, I believe it's the one who actually is an older guy with the scruff-looking face. I think he's one who actually, I don't remember who was murdered, but it's a great little two-parter, multi-parter, and he was able to pull up the hiding the whole body trick via hide behind a glass door, which also acts as a mirror. hmm But it's an absolutely fun episode. Yep. Next comes a two-part filler, which is a follow-up to an episode way back at. Let me look up because I have the site up here because well, the past few days the site's been down for some reason. Yeah, apparently there was some slight problems with the site, so the site I usually get all my information from apparently decided to go down for some reason. Because I have been checking like every day, see the site's back up because yeah, apparently there's some kind of error or something. I tried checking on my phone, and when I yeah they actually this is sort of a follow up to a two-parter back. I think it was season 5. I think it was. It was actually one of the first filler episodes I watched. Yep. Yep. Found it. What about the character Megumi and of course the theater company? Yeah, first time is episode 126. Yep. Though she does come back one more time in episode 152, and that's it. Yeah, and here's the thing with this woman, this little girl, she has a crush on Conan. Yeah, makes one of like two little girls has a crush on Conan. hmm Yeah, it's odd though that a character who's very good does, who I think should appear in Canon because she goes to the same school as Conan. But they only show her in this filler episode, and the last time she appeared was back in season 5. So yeah, it'd been nine seasons since she last appeared. hmm Yeah, and it was with this particular two-parter involved like kidnapping one of the castmates, and she actually is the daughter of a rich guy who apparently she disappeared 6 months prior, and he later on after like a couple days after like being back with her father like a day, she wanted to get back because the performance is coming up, so Rachel had to fill in. They eventually do find her, and the person who actually participated in kidnapping, what it turned out like what they figured was a fake kidnapping, and then it turned into an actual kidnapping, and she didn't get back no problem at all, and yeah, particularly very good one. Now they do come back one more time in this series in episode 452. Yeah, 452. I've been seeing. Yep, season 15. Appear one more time, and then these characters never show up in the series ever again. And after that, we have the Saito Shrine Tourist Surprise Code. Yeah, this one basically is something that, well, Conan is not involved with the murder case at all, in kind of a way it is, but, and it turns out that the person who they actually sort of witnessed the crime, and the thing started off with Conan receiving a photo, though somehow supposed to send to Jimmy's phone, but it's not his, where Conan got a picture of Rachel in a swimsuit. Though it had like a clue for the murderer, and it turns out the person who was transferring back to the hotel was the actual murderer, and she was able to get and Rachel was able to knock the guy out pretty easily by kicking him right in the face. There's even like a little shoe mark on his face because of it. It's an odd little two-parter, but it's actually really good. Next comes the first of 2 filler episodes. First is called Mystery to Half Completed Crime. Yeah, this was actually quite an interesting one, where the guy who got killed by via poison, he was a scriptwriter, and the person who killed him was actually one of the other scriptwriters, not the main one, mind you, but one of the other ones. And turns out Conan was actually a fan of the detective show, and he sort of lied the fact he may have watched me on videotape, but he actually did watch when it aired, like one of the cases. And the reasoning for killing off, and apparently the guy who committed the crime, he didn't care if in fact it was the guy who actually got killed or the other guy got killed, as long as one of them got killed so he can actually put his own work out. Yeah. But it turns out he actually put out like a lot of the really good episodes for this detective series. Yeah. It's a great little standard episode involving like behind the scenes. It's kind of like a behind the scenes thing for TV shows, which I think is really good. I don't mind episodes like this. It's perfectly fine, but it's really good. Next episode is all about a bird. Yep. And it's a real mysterious one that the guy who apparently is a friend of this little girl's mother replaced her bird with a different one because the other one had died mysteriously. So he went out to a replacement. It turns out he bought the wrong gender. He bought a female instead of male. Eventually he did buy the male, and he did confess to it, and she basically forgave him for it. That's why she hated him prior to finding out about the whole thing of the anime replaced. Unknown what the reasoning is. Apparently she didn't really care for him. For some reason. Yeah, it's particularly a very odd episode. Next comes a 3-parter called The Evil Spirit Unlucky Day. Yeah, this particular 3-parter, I don't remember what it was because I may have skipped over it. Yeah. I may have slipped away. I don't remember because it's been a while since I've watched these episodes. So I'm not going to talk about episodes 415 to 416 because I don't remember. Oh, the ghost thing. Oh yeah, this thing. Okay, I do kind of remember the thing now. Okay, This particularly was one where they bring in one of the detectives who work with Takagi, and they bring his brother in. First of these two actually appeared in the episode, and it turns out the whole thing deals with the deaths of basically the current staff's family members, like this woman's husband, this guy, and their chauffeur's father and brother, who turns out is actually alive. And as for and turns out the security guard who was the first person to get killed in this case, yeah, he died. Well, he got killed by one of the brothers, and turns out he killed his boss so he could take his job. So he said hide his body underneath the boat in a duffel bag. Okay, yeah, and this particular thing caused this boat to sink, and apparently the owner just didn't care. Yeah, him and his wife just well, the wife, I think she did care, but the owner just didn't care. Like, actually, not the owner, it was actually the security guy. Says, as long as you two survive, perfectly fine. Yep. So, yeah, it's particularly very interesting. I kind of forgot what it was, and I remembered. Oh yeah, this particular thing. Okay, I had to look at the description. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I do remember this one. Yeah, one guy was found basically hanging from a balcony. Conan was able to get there pretty easily via going to their room, climbing up, and basically get through that way. Yeah, it's a particularly very odd one, and they prove the whole brothers thing, the whole twin brother thing, because well, Yagashi's brother, who's basically detective in their precinct, he comes in, wears a wig to look like his brother, and he tells him afterwards, like, okay, I did a favor for you. Could you not tell your boss I was here? Yeah, and apparently he's a lot stricter. hmm Yep. Next up is a first of 3 canon episodes versus Homa Baka's Greener. Yeah, this one involved, believe it or not, the return of Booker and Vivian Kudo, disguised as an old couple who bought a house briefly and then put it back in the market. Yeah, just Chicken Conan. Yep. Okay. It's the first of these two show up in a filler episode, but yeah. We have sort of a heads up. But this one I thought was interesting. hmm Where it turns out this particular woman was supposed to be involved with another guy, like forced to marry this other person, and it turns out the person really loved her trying to rescue her, and of course kill the serpent. Yeah. Yeah, where a very greedy rich guy wanted to marry this daughter of an inn, which the inn had been renovated by him, and try to force basically get their parents to agree to marry him. And it turns out her childhood friend was definitely in love with her. And yeah, so the person was killed by one of the air suspects who wanted to take over his family restaurant. Yep. But it's a great little two-parter, and Conan recommended that. Well, he should have. I think it was Conan. I think it was Conan recommended to the guy who was suspected of killing, who originally suspected of killing him. But he had a perfect good alibi because they were at the same place. Yeah, to protect her, and he agrees to. hmm Great little two-part. It's an okay little two-parter. hmm Gang of Color's first love. Yeah, this involves the kids, Detective Boyce and Professor Gawa, looking for his first love, and they do find her eventually near these ginkgo trees near the elementary school. And for a woman who's in the late 40s, she looks stunning. hmm And she waited for him to come by these trees for 40 years. They do meet each other, but they don't really like say who the names are. But yeah, and sure, this woman was actually half Japanese, I think half American, half Japanese, at least Japanese American, and it's a great little stand-in episode. It's basically a character piece for Gawa. hmm Yep. Then we have a standalone episode involving cabbage worms. I've never heard of these bugs before. Nope. And it turns out there was a murder was nearby, and a little boy was running to this particular guy's lawn just to save these things from, well, from because he didn't want to kill them because he has a kind heart. So gives to this gigantic tree, And it turns out he actually ran into a murder by complete accident, and the guy tries to kill him. And then he's saved via his hat that he has was given to by his late mother. hmm And it turns out his dad actually works late. hmm Yep. It's a pretty good little two-parter. Great. It's okay for a standalone piece. Yep. And then pretty much the last three episodes are all standalone. 224, 424, 426, both standalone episodes, both canon. Yeah, this one, the first one involved like an editor getting killed. Turns out she was killed by one of her workers who was also a boyfriend. And apparently he tried to break up with her, but he just couldn't. So he just had to kill her. Never got a good proper look at this woman. Basically, never saw this woman when she was alive. She was basically, you only saw one picture of her. It's kind of particularly a very odd case. Because usually when they see a victim, they usually see her, they talk to them briefly, and then of course lay up dead. This is the first time where the victim's already dead, and there's like no flashback to her at all. Yep. Last one involves like a love letter. I will talk about the 2 hour movie, 2 hour episode, 2.5 hour film. I'll talk about that soon, but I'll talk about right after the first one. So let's talk about this one. This is an okay little two-parter, Ren's love letter, where Rachel finds a love letter in her locker, and nothing's really done with this until the end of the episode. Like, oh, they go to the park, and it's actually a girl who's a fan of hers. Gives her flowers, and that's it. It's kind of loosely tied into the main plot of the episode, where a woman basically is trying to figure out who broke into her house, and it turns out it was an old classmate of hers, and he was trying to steal stuff. But once he found out that he knew who the owners were, he just basically put the money back, prayed to the pitcher. This is a Japanese thing. Yeah, put like a little like pay respects and like that, and eventually Conan and Rachel save the guy from being beaten to death. And it's an okay it's an okay slant episode. But now talk about the episode that, well, is pretty much supposed to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the series. Yep. Called Black Impact, the moment the Black organization reaches out. And do you know how many chapters this one adapts? I think it's 6. Yep. It is roughly 6 chapters. Yeah. This one, there's actually a couple different cases with this one. One involving Richard Moore being hired to investigate who was doing the whole ding dong thing, trying to figure who basically is ringing her doorbell at 6 o'clock on 6:30 every Saturday morning except for one. And it turns out it's a little boy, and the reason why he was doing it because, well, she looks like his mother, and he wanted her to be late for work. Simple as that. Yeah, that was particularly kind of useful, but that did set up later on with the Black Organization, which all returned Jin, Baka, Vermouth. Turned out this reporter who actually hired Richard Moore, of course, this is Yanako appears briefly in this episode. Turns out she's a member of the Black Organization called Kerr. Yeah, but they don't explain her backstory until much later. Yeah. Of course, I'm about to put to figure out who she really is and who she's related to. Yep. And they involve like assassination, and they meet like 2 other people who involve in the organization, 2 who are snipers named Korn and Katori. Yeah. How they're introduced is a bit unusual. It's different how they introduce in the manga because they just appear completely out of nowhere, like basically drag up. In the anime, they actually had them practice in a holographic, in basically a holodeck, shooting at this guy via holographic simulation. Though it's basically mid-2000s technology, but yeah, it's a freaking holodeck because you have a holographic projection of like a speech, and all involving killing off this one person like 4 times, trying to figure out how far I can go. They say 500 yards, 550, 600. They try 650, but 600 apparently was their limit. And it turns out this guy was not the actual thing, but just testing. And the person who actually tried to kill is a soldier from the Self-Defense Forces who was basically trying to get this particular office. And there's also an episode return of Jody Starling, and of course James Black. James Black, now do reference his first appearance in the series back in season 10. Yes. So roughly about 2 or 3 years prior to this. And of course, he appeared one other time prior to this in a brief little moment when he's transporting Jody Starling away from a crime scene. Yeah, and Conan didn't recognize him at first, but yeah, he does remember him. And he treats him with a good amount of respect. You also see the guy who's technically, well, a lot of people, where Jin calls him the silver bullet of the organization, so Vermouth thinks is Conan, aka Jimmy. Yeah, it's a great 2.5-hour episode, and adapted really well. I say with the exception of the opening, it pretty much kept everything from the manga because the opening is completely original from the manga. Because that opening is not from the manga, if I remember. No. They do recap several cases basically via stock. Through altered stock, they basically downgrade the animation for this one, but these are the cases they reference in here. Roller Coaster Murder Case, which is basically opening up of the series. Girlfriend, the Black Organization, and University Murder Case. Black Organization, 1 billion robbery case. Reunion of the Black Organization, Head of the Black Organization. Duel and Mystery Full Night, and the 4 Porsches. Yeah, basically all involving the Black Organization. Yeah, fantastic one, and like other 2.5-hour films, it actually has the story continuing despite the credit. They have the credits rolling and the story is still going. Yeah, they eventually do take the woman sort of into protective custody after she's knocked out and she's into the hospital and she's in coma. She's in coma for a pretty good period of time. If you're wondering how long she's in coma for in the manga, she's in coma for over 100 chapters, like roughly almost 2 years. She's in a coma. Eventually, she finally gets out of a coma. And it turns out to be related to a new character which is going to debut in the show next season. I won't spoil who the character is, but they do find out this character is actually the sister of this character. Yeah. But it's an overall really good 2.5-hour episode and great return for Jin and Vaca. Vermouth doesn't do anything at all this whole episode. She basically spouts some lines, but mostly it's just Chachi and Korn who take part in this whole thing. And these two are the expert marksmen for the Black Organization. Yeah, at one point they actually do this from the manga as well. They try to shoot Richard Moore when he's participating in a horse race, and he's basically very mean and very rude, because Steve's knocked out, so he's trying to listen to stuff. So the phone's ringing, and instead of answering, what he does, he disconnects the phone line because he doesn't want to answer the phone because he's listening to a horse race. Yeah, he's that obsessed with a horse race. Got a winning streak. Okay, fine, whatever. They eventually do the obsession via Conan using his magic soccer ball, hits Richard Moore's window, and eventually Aki shows up and just takes them all out. It's like, and of course, Jin is one finds it like, oh crap, it's him. It's Aki. And he just basically shoots up Gin like he shoots at Jin. He shoots at him like 4 times. Basically grazes his cheek, fires all of his limbs, even hits his bulletproof vest several times. It's wow, it's like he's that obsessed with killing this guy. Of course, he would become a recurring character the whole series. And he at one point would fake his death, I read, but I haven't really read that far yet. But at one point he does fake his death. But I haven't got that far, but I'm looking forward. This guy is one fantastic character so far. This one I think we know virtually almost nothing about his personality at all, except it's revealed in this episode the Black Organization killed his girlfriend. Yep. Otherwise, though, fantastic season. Despite that having some odd episodes. But I would say probably the best episode of this whole season is probably going to be the Black Organization episode. Yep. So yeah, that's it for this particular review. I have several other videos coming today. I have a review of a Comic Corner coming up. Also reviews for One Piece, Dragon Ball Super, Bards like usual. I'm also going to review the newest chapters of the My Hero Academia and 7 Deadly Sins manga. That's it. Roughly like 5 more videos planned for today. Okay? But until I see you next video. Bye.